Little one, come and play and chase all the fluffy clouds away. Small, meager one running into caverns, you will never know how long you roam. Let your dreams carry you away with that little treasured bell you love so well. Come and play in the haunting razor snow, for now that's all the life you will ever know. Once upon a time, once upon a time. That's how most stories go, and they like to end with happy ever after. Every story of this world have such different ways of expressing this, in their unique ways at unique places, at unique times. One culture, one identity, a melting pot of variants, infinite outcomes and possibilities both of good and dark. Identity is a powerful thing indeed. It tears and builds, raises and crushes its wielders. It is what raises a knife to someone's neck in betrayal and cuts the skin of the arm to painful and sorrowful burning scars. Though it also heals and makes layers stronger and sturdier cement, a cement that can outlast the ages of history. A few ages past, in a world not too different from our own, a boy was born. He resided on a planet half green and half water, half suffering and half prosperity. The planet of duality and perhaps paradoxicality, Earth. Once just a normal world given inspiration, until a higher power seemed to give a gift, a white stream of wavy white light passing over like a comet over the beautiful misty blue. A new chapter in mankind's discovery, not technology or weaponry, but a spiritual power. This spiritual white river was seen by all, and both feared and respected. For those who could harness its potential could achieve great power, the power to rule, the power to destroy, the power to control and manipulate others, though also the power to help and teach, and the power to nearly free mankind from the internal and external sufferings. Once upon the great monsoon that passes through the dancing green grassy hills and the lush winding mountains and across the old rice fields of small, homely towns, the tale of the boy would grow and become the symbol of the Mandarin Island country. But before, when he was just a kid, in the very beginning, between the upper sea of East China and the Celebes waters, the islands of the Philippines, the commercial island of Luzon, Tice Island is where the thriving large city of Manila stands, a mix of Spanish and Filipino culture, the actual capital of the Philippines, and where the steep and tall Mayon volcano stands, the volcano smoke always flowing out of its lid, far into the country, in a small woodland. Trouble was brewing deep in the jungle of Luzon, deep between Siangam Mountain Range near the settlement Bugias, built like a formidable surrounding wall. Near a large village, New Euclid, a cold light gray medical facility, stood tall, off-putting compared to the lively, dark green woodland that was surrounding it. Its long bright halls that induce a calm yet lonely aura, as a lady with blonde ponytail and emerald green eyes, wearing a white scientist gown and square glasses, giving off an air of sophistication and experience, enters a facility, quickly putting on her name tag, Dr. Ellen Stewart, as she rushed through the door and down the gray, dimly lit hallway. The guards seemingly recognized her and didn't stop her as her continued forward, moving past other doctors, both Euclidean and human, to a man looking different, vastly different from them. A man wearing gray cotton button suit, his name tag covered by the bright light of the facility, a much older, thin, shouldered Caucasian man with thinning white and gray hair and a thin beard, tired with the skin around, his orange mixed with pink reddish eyes, black and wrinkled bags. He sees her and tells his nurse to care for his current patient, who has an elderly Usildian moving erratically and calling out for his son to save him. The doctor ignores the common screaming and irrational behavior he sees over and over at his job and goes over to greet the famous writer, Ellen raising her hand to meet the even more famous biologist.
You're late, Miss 𝒲𝒏𝒕𝒖𝓓𝒆. You missed our latest project. It is a great creation. We have created another artificial life form, the 2.0 Azura Jr. I know you are a famous book author, so I'm not surprised you had the need of a neuroscience convention every once in a while. But you missed yet another deadline, another step for biology.
Lead doctor, sir, why are we still so concerned about biology? Why not be concerned about the patients? We still need to maintain.
Yes. Move on with the ridiculous questions.
The doctor looks at his watch and then looks back, going to Ellen and touching her elbow with his relaxed knuckles, gesturing to her to follow him.
Anyway, the infant has proven to have a higher intelligence, a success. Though the infant is temperamental, maybe a motherly figure could work to calm the specimen. Not to apply you directly. I have many other things I need you to do before I can have you be a babysitter.
How about the other specimen, your first? I heard he came back since it was his birthday. And you...
We don't talk about that specimen. It failed to meet our expectations. A lack of intelligence, below even a basic 80 IQ. This new subject, the 2.0 of that specimen, is much less mutated and more streamlined too.
I don't mean to be rude, sir, but he was your son. He's not just of scientific importance. He saw you as a father. You yourself call it your...
Don't ask questions about things you don't know anything about. Apprentice Nurse 𝒲𝒏𝒕𝒖𝓓𝒆.
But sir...
It was a failure. That's all you need to know and think about the subject. Our staff here don't focus on the past, rather the future of mankind.
Ellen walked with the doctor through the long, dingy white halls with piercing fluorescent white light, making anyone who was dazed feel like they were in a human-crafted heaven or hell as they went through the interconnecting lonely halls. The medical doctor glancing at people passing by them with syringes with a blue liquid inside them, some animal humanoid Euclidean scientists, and many more human scientists, each greeting their boss as they passed. They carried their old, weary patients to numbered rooms, the patients locked in place by straitjackets, trying to get out, one seeking the help of Ellen before. The doctor slaps the patient's hand and suggests the black cat, male Euclidean doctor.
Nurse Lionel, put the subject on more 𝒆𝒆 and aspirin.
What are the syringes for?
The syringes? You know the answer to that already, Miss 𝒲𝒏𝒕𝒖𝓓𝒆. Didn't I just tell you not to be so curious? Whatever. I need you to interview some patients for me. They're at the rooms 910A, and 916A. Got it? An old medic and weapons ammunition guy, right? With a scar across his face. Remember, I want to know their mental states, if they are satisfied being here. If they resist, give them the drugs that our other providers have given to you. Give them to the unstable patients so they can relax and we can help them better. Got that?
Yes. Yes, Dr. Ines.
Good. I'll be in my office if you need assistance.
Ellen went down the long halls, but not to the doctor specified, but to a dark part of the facility, shadows hanging off of every wall, dim light of doorways guiding her to her desired location. Finally, a room with a blue light. When she opened the door, immediately feeling the warmth coming off the light, and hearing the whimpering of a small child, when she looked round, she saw a medical cradle with a small, strange moon-gray baby inside. The baby had large, cute eyes, a mix of red and gray irises, a rabbit humanoid appearance, with large ears, definitely. Unhuman, the baby seemed unaware of its cold and metallic surroundings, only the intimidating figure standing above it. She was mystified, unhuman alien creature, not native to this world, but such. Innocence in a world filled with fear and corruption. She knew this was her target. A camera caught her as she attempted to hold the baby, and a blaring alarm went off. The baby was now crying from the noise. Ellen quickly getting the baby and ramming herself out of the doorway. While running, she tears off a white doctor coat and uses it as a blanket for the crying rabbit mutant baby in her arms. Then tearing off the face mask she had been wearing the whole time. She wasn't neuroscientist Dr. Ellen at all, but a spy. A spy sent by an unknown party. Men in white medical gowns and mercenaries, armed with rifles, yell for her to stop or hand the infant over. The agent rushes through the front, double doors and hops on her motorcycle to the side and drives off through the flat land heading for the eastern edge of the island. Though armed men on jeeps chase her for hours, villagers yelling in confusion, and the baby crying profusely. She has no time to comfort the baby with armed battle-hungry men on her tail, and nearly was getting cornered on the mountainside road. But she was more clever than the lead doctor gave her credit for. She readied herself. They quickly pass over a road, and the bulky vehicles fly over it, not noticing a parked motorcycle barely detectable in the deep ditch to the side. Once the coast was clear, she drove off, with the baby in her arms, who was much more relaxed now, grabbing the air and giggling. She feels better that the baby was not making as much noise as she passed through tall green tree woodland into the tropical palm trees that sat near soft ground of the shoreline. A little white speedboat is situated partially on soggy sand, little waves created by the soft salty wind crashing on its back. Patches of deep dark blue, surrounded by bright blue, reflecting the light of the sunny sky. She hopped off the motorcycle with the baby and set a bomb under the steering wheel. She was practically running to the boat, hearing the vrooming of engines and grinding of wheels coming closer and closer to the shore. Their engines roared over the sound of vicious-looking soldiers hopping to the ground. The agent tries her best to protect the baby, the soldiers shouting, upsetting the baby greatly, making it start crying. The clouds get bigger and darker, and waves starting to get bigger and more violent. As the final truck with a bunch of scientists and the lead doctor who Dr. Ellen talked to earlier, he got out of the truck and was yelling for them to snatch the creature out of her hands. Any means necessary, the battle-starved soldiers hoped off the truck and surrounded the two. One of them closes in to grab the baby. The wind got louder and louder. This baby is not your property, ma'am. It belongs to the new Euclid Hospital. Now give it to me slowly and calmly. She looks back behind her, with the ocean touching the back of her ankles, and of the army from the pits of the dark, places of the world in front. She was trapped and felt alone. She looked into the sky for answers, knowing she may not find any. The cool breeze touching her face, closing her eyes to feel the cool, wet breeze, the ocean comforting her, and inviting. The soldier who claimed to not resort to violence was getting impatient. She made her praise short, and looked back to the soldier, a determination she rarely felt before in her line of work.
I can't. He's no longer your responsibility.
Gave us the baby now. No excuses. This is a government order, ma'am. One of the four mercenaries in the back, young and grinning with a hot-headed energy, walks up and tries to snatch the baby himself, pulling on its arm. The spy trying to stop him, screaming, no. The other soldier, who never was faced real opposition, got more desperate, which made him more violent, pulling the baby's arm hard and breaking one of the baby's elbow joints. The spy screamed in rage and punched him square in the face and yelled for him to stay down. The youth refused, and jumping back up and tackled the lady, tackling her and putting his barely experienced hands around her neck. He is overwhelmed by his power, by his need of manliness. However, his actions prove he knows nothing of it. The crying of the baby grew as the wind became deafening, as tall clouds circled, twisting and spinning. Angry primal sound of thunder banged loudly against the heavens and the earth. Then out of the blue, a stray current of deadly natural electricity shot down from the sky and zigzagged its way to ground. In milliseconds, the soldier could only jump back, but it still met its target. The soldier was burnt to cinder. The evil not seen by ones who fight against others in wars they never needed joined, now life taken, now gone, following commands a non-battle-hardened fool, gone and forgotten without a child, a wife, a mother, a soul to even mourn them. The price for obedience to one who does not value you. With the commotion caused by this turn of events, the agent uses it as a distraction to leave on the motorboat. With the baby lost perhaps forever, the soldiers and scientists leave, except for the lead doctor who watches the motorboat, and Storm gradually following the boat from behind, the wind blowing his name tag off his purple coat, which read, Executive Manager Dr. 𝒲𝒾𝓏'𝓈. The storm picked up quickly over what used to be mild waves. Water crashed around the boat, crushing waves and loud winds swirling in the circles. The baby started crying again, and so the agent sings a lullaby, a 𝒲𝒾𝓏'𝓈. The baby soon closes its eyes and drifts off to a dreamland, while the agent stayed awake to shield the infant from the monstrous waves and hellish storm. For days crossing the Chinese Pacific, She is forced to close the sails and throw water with a bucket out of the ship as large waves, some being typhoons, almost make the ship go under, though by some miracle, the ship didn't get swallowed up. She got water behind her ear with how much water rained down on her, realizing she should have bought a second pair of clothes as well. Every day that the storm stopped, she would ration out her food, comprising blueberries, beef jerky, graham crackers, marshmallow cream, Hershey bars, salted meat, sauerkraut, and several bottles of triple berry vitamin water. She supplied and bought everything herself. The ship was provided by her superiors, while the baby had mashed sweet potato, banana, avocado, and some baby milk stored in the back of the ship. 2 days in, it was only cloudy and no waves came in. Feeling a lot better, the agent decided to make some s'mores. The reason being to show the kid for the first time something good and nice, and not the dark, cold, and metallic nature of the hospital. Something very unkind in an area filled with simple country folk. Since it was too wet to make a fire, and the ship didn't have any wood, she just put an unmelted Hershey's with some graham and marshmallow together and ate it, giving the baby small pieces of her own s'more on that calm day. The baby grinned and giggled in satisfaction, then suddenly burping after a few bites, making a usually tense spy, which she is used to being, for yet another time caught completely off guard. But she laughed and did not feel like a bad thing for the first time in many years. A few weeks later, the two were still at sea. The 1 week's worth of rations, which was supposed to last for several weeks, was now gone, and the baby milk intended to feed the baby was dried up. The baby was hungry, and the spy couldn't afford the child dying. So she opened up her suit and gave it her own. It was surprising the way the baby instantly accepted it, like he was her mother, like the baby even had birth mother. It was born an orphan, though for a very unusual lady like herself, who has assassinated hundreds of political figures and murdered people in cold blood for the motherland. She couldn't help but smile like a parent as she held the infant closer to her chest as the sea pushed the boat up and down through raging waves and wrathful fast winds, loud drumming thunder and stinging salty rain. They landed on land several days later. The agent's clothes dirty and smelly with a salty stench from weeks out at sea. The boat landed on the beach. The great long green mountains, clean air and wind showing the spy that they were finally at a place she preferred and liked. Taiwan, the island of rolling green, island of the founders of Ki. Though the tiresome smell of salt from the sea water is still there, she was glad. She stepped out of the boat and grabbed her backpack, putting the baby inside with his little head peeking out. She carried the baby in a worn backpack left in the boat, which, because it wasn't tied down, was dragged back into the ocean, just like intended. She followed a small dirt road to one of the main interstates that travels through the south of Taiwan. She taking a small woven with cradle and makeshifts into a small motorboat and puts it on a metal attachment and places on her back, carrying the worn backpack with the baby in her arms, just in case for a situation where she was about to be captured by local guards and she make a safety getaway for the baby for it won't be taken. They landed on land several days later. The agent's clothes dirty and smelly with a salty stretch from weeks out at sea. The boat landed on the beach. The great long green mountains, clean air and wind showing the spy that they were finally at a place she preferred and liked. Taiwan, the island of rolling green, island of the founders of Key. Though the tiresome smell of salt from the sea water is still there, she was glad. She stepped out of the boat and grabbed her backpack, putting the baby inside with his little head peeking out. She carried the baby in a worn backpack left in the boat, which, because it wasn't tied down, was dragged back into the ocean just like intended. She followed a small dirt road to one of the main interstates that travels through the south of Taiwan. She taking a small woven wood cradle and makeshifts into a small motorboat and puts on a metal attachment and places on her back, carrying the worn backpack with the baby in her arms, just in case for a situation where she was about to be captured by local guards and she make a safety getaway for the baby, for it won't be taken. A little later she gets to the township of Hunshan, an old small town with a few shops, apartments, and a small middle school, though much more decorated and colorful than where the spy came through, a stone build of ancient gray stonework walls and bridges, and moss growing everywhere. She went all the houses around the block and further ahead, but they all closed the door on her as soon as they saw the baby's face. A freak, that alien abomination. I don't want a child of murderers mingling and going to school with my children, not finding anyone who could accept the heat, making her feel like she was still out in the endless empty sea. She heard from a teacher looking after a bunch of kids in front of the middle school that there was a house outside of town to the north. When she got there, she saw a small 2-story wooden whitewashed house on a tiny incline near a large rice field, with many bushes and little red buds covering the entire way to the house. A little front yard with bushes sparsely separated with a tiny metal fence separating the worn-down concrete walkway connecting to the oddly slightly wider highway road that goes through the entire town. Small, cozy. This was just right. All she needed was to find the owner, holding on courage knowing she may be told to leave again. Though when she went to the door, there was a yellow, thin, sticky note made in harsh blue print writing of Old Mandarin, obviously written with a long, worn-out pen, stuck to the wood door with a metal rim by a pin.
Out for a bit. Going fishing on the lake. I'll be home by 5. I be ready for any business by then.
Knowing she has little time, she asked an old Taiwan's rice farmer who was working nearby on a watery rice bed, planting, with his own home in the distance.
Do you know where your neighbor in this house is? Somewhere at a lake, perhaps? That's what the note on his door said.
The old man was wearing a long straw hat and oddly tropical-looking clothing, long gloves in the water, straw sandals even though his feet were in muddy water, and a Hawaiian shirt. The farmer looked at her with aged eyes and an old man's gentle smile. The agent, almost distracted by the smell of the acidic spice of kimchi mixed with carrots and pickle, flowed through the smell of wet plants and mud of the rice fields in the little cozy cottage, big enough for a family and small enough to keep its humble disposition, likely the old man's home.
Late. Oh. You searching for full choral gang student? Haha. He's always fishing, never working. The lake is called Long Luan Lake, Long Lawn. It's north from here. Keep your head on the road. Go through the north. Gate of the town. Go past Ping Long Road, and you'll find it. Though, I would warn you, fine girl, it's wise not to disturb Fool Adam, or else you'll get a kick to the face.
Him pointing to his face, pulling him his wide straw hat that covered everything except his mouth and chin. She could clearly see his right eye was bruised and blackened,
but I can get him for you.
The old rice farmer starts whispering, covering one side of his mouth with his hand, and grinning with an old laboring man's charm.
I know how to push the boys' buttons.
No, thanks. Thank you, sir.
Very welcome.
When the agent is far enough away, the old farmer takes another look at the lady, giving a shit-eating grin and softly giggling before going back to work, making sure that his wife wasn't nearby.
Very welcome indeed. Big breast blondie.
Yet, he still felt the sting of an angry wife's sharp nail on his old ear all the same. The baby rests softly in her arms, finally sleeping after the day's long search to find the baby a home. She, just like on the ship, felt like a mother holding a little alien, no, a little sleeping and happy angel in her arms. But she could not ignore her mission. She couldn't take in the baby. That will compromise her, but also put him in danger as well. She quickly headed toward the lake, which there were a few of guards with strange high-class military weapons on them, patrolling around the town. She tries to hide, but the guards quickly see her, knowing she looks pretty damn suspicious in her waterlogged Russian spy-looking clothing. She quickly took Rand to the lake and took off the cradle makeshift toy, motorboat off her back, and places it in the water. The guards gets closer and start shouting for her to get on her knees and raise her arms in the air. The agent turns on the initiation of the little engine and puts the baby in. She lets go of the boat, and the boat splashes away as the guards tackle her and put her in cuffs. She gives a final saddened look to the little baby and follows the guards, holding arms close to her chest, never forgetting the little angel. She quickly headed toward the lake, which there were a few of guards with strange high-class military weapons on them, patrolling around the town. She tries to hide, but the guards quickly see her, knowing she looks pretty damn suspicious in her waterlogged Russian spy-looking clothing. She quickly took Rand to the lake and took off the cradle makeshift toy, motorboat off her back, and places it in the water. The guards gets closer and start shouting for her to get on her knees and raise her arms in the air. The agent turns on the initiation of the little engine and puts the baby in. She lets go of the boat, and the boat splashes away as the guards tackle her and put her in cuffs. She gives a final saddened look to the little baby and follows the guards, holding arms close to her chest, never forgetting the little angel. A warm breeze blew over across blades of green grass near the small lake, which stood strangely flat next to the bumpy dark green mountains and power lines jumping to each mountain. There was barely a cloud in sight in the endless blue as the lone boat floated about on the fresh water. An Caucasian man, wearing a button-up blue shirt, dark blue jeans, and had the Psycho Party flag on his cap, strains of brown hair coming out, his bucket of worms by one side, and an orange inhaler to the sitting by the side of his left hip on the wood elevated plank, putting a leg over the edge of the boat, and his leg over that one, a piece of straw, and a rusty nail clinched on his teeth. He had his fishing pole out, and a bucket of fish bait that he already used to catch a few fishes with the bait on the far northeast side of the murky still water of Long Wan Lake. To his side is already 2 Taiwanese mossers and a couple of carp, seeming to be planning to catch more. He suddenly heard a baby cry in the distance, which he peered over his little boat to see what it was. A weird little watercraft was being pushed through the water by propellers, with a little white bang kit that had a seemingly blue-grayish creature inside it. Adam put 1 and 2 together and quickly rowed the boat towards that direction, and after getting the boat, he pulled it out of the water. The propellers were still on, and Adam quickly tried to find an off switch, but eventually took the baby out and put the craft back into the water, sending it off on its own untold adventure. He now saw that the creature was a baby, kind of like a human baby, but obviously different. The surprise almost made him fall off the boat, but he managed to settle himself and stare at the weird gray rabbit humanoid creature. The baby was still upset and crying loudly, but Adam didn't know what to do and in his panic nearly dropped the baby, making it cry even louder. Panicking, he stared and held the baby to the sky, yelling for someone to take him back. The very heavens to take him back. Now the baby was just confused. But nothing, of course. Why the heck would he think he could get out of this so easily? He couldn't take care of a baby. His work life was so demanding, and he was a man, not a mother. He didn't have that gentle touch. He was too rough, too skilled in his harsh trades. But when he, though a mother, reminded him of his relationship with his Austrian mother, and seeing the baby, it reminded him of something incredibly precious too. Him, a song his mother would sing to him on his old wooden frame bed when he was very young. I gave him hope and comfort the darkest point of his life, and he knew what to do. He held the baby close and breathed deeply.
Sleep, my baby, sleep, love. 2 rosy cheeks to reap, love. Into dreamland glide while I sing to thee thy lullabies. Sleep, my baby, sleep, love. Like a flower expanding. Methinks I see thee standing, strong in growth and sweet and fair, drinking God's pure, sunny air, like a flower expanding.
The baby, instead of crying, started enjoying the song. Adam having an overwhelming feeling inside him, like a feeling of a father or even motherly figure. He made him feel how his mother sang to him. Maybe his mother felt the same way. The baby started laughing happily, and almost an instinct, Adam put the baby on his lap and played with it, touching its nose goofily, and made silly faces as he continued his mother's lullaby.
Don't forget your home, love. When far away you roam, love. Growing from your mother's, father's care, don't forget to say your prayer. Don't forget your home, love. Roses, red and glowing, among the thorns are growing. All the thorns I keep for me, all the roses are for thee. Roses, red and glowing, from thy cozy nest, love, unto thy father's arms. Come, my babe, and take thy place. Father's lap and fond embrace make thy safest nest, love.
The song was called 𝒆𝒏𝒕𝒖𝒓𝒆 barn, 𝒆𝒏 lenge, sleep, my baby, sleep, love. Though he did replace a few words, like mother with father and breast with arms. As Adam sings his lullaby, the baby goes from crying to being drowsy to finally sleeping. A big smile comes across Adam's face and puts the baby gently on his lap. He grabs the boat paddles and rows back into the west shore of the lake, where he chained his boat with iron chains, a lock, and a very large heavy rock, and walked across Shitan Road until there was a clearing of farmland, one little road that led to a little house that was covered by a wild-looking tree at a certain angle. This was Adam's home, and now the baby's as well. Across the sea many months later, the agent makes it back to Paris, capital royal province of France, capital city and military headquarters of the South and Middle Europe Union, Novice Ordo. She is driven by limousine across the French prairie land filled with simple folk mind their business, the hard day's labor and its hardships and great joys. Then across the main city, starving and mad, loud and ones who poke at every beast, and ones who have nailed their ears shut, wild protests of people yelling and screaming, banging across a limousine window, somehow assuming whoever was inside was responsible for their daily troubles. The limousine kept going, moving past downtown and into the more quiet outer edge, the city meeting with the outer country. The shining black car parked, and its valuable asset walked out, now in front of a large Victorian though still indiscreet mansion. She enters through the guarded gate, who goes into the large with doors. She goes through the large dark empty lobby and up the creaking stairs, enters the main room. The agent closes the door and speaks to a large shadow on the other side of the room, barely lit up by the night sky through its large slender windows, lights glowing through the city surrounding the tall Eiffel Tower.
Andre Zielinska, reporting to Minister of Novice Ordo that transport of target 𝒆𝒏𝒕𝒖𝒓𝒆 has been completed. The experiment has been taken from Dr. Alkin and transferred to a desired location.
Desired.
The man spoke up with an elderly, raspy voice, though still strong and quiet, though so loud that it would feel like he was talking into the agent's ear.
I couldn't make it to the motherland on planes, sir. The lead doctor's guards cut me off, but I managed to use the secondary escape, the boat, to get off the island, and I got away from the Philippines and went to the next nearest land. I thought he wouldn't.
The silhouette slowly stands up, now showing he is a towering and large-shouldered, shadowy stature, with restraints, keeping his hands locked together and covered up in thick iron. Only his old eyes are visible.
It was Taiwan, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. How did you know, sir?
It's the martial arts capital of the world now. So my rivals and foes claim. They seek to supplant me with a powerful warrior, though they fear the masked emperor who dwells there. Plus, he always had an affinity for martial domination.
Thank you, boss.
Where was the baby taken? Who did you give it to?
A fisherman on a large lake near the township of Hunchun. Very laid-down place. Very traditional.
It'll take a while before Alkin figures out whether the child is there or not. It'd be wise to keep a few insiders among the main police force and locals to keep us updated on anything Alkin or scientists or mercenary goons are up to in that area.
I don't think that will happen.
The man stooped forward, seemingly offended by the agent's choice of words. The agent notices and thinks about it, but is sure of herself and continues.
Alkin won't go looking for the child. He has other plans in mind.
What other plans?
The large, important building disappears as we leave the light-up, beautiful city of Paris and past the vast European lands and cross the great countryside of the west and east, past the provinces of China and over the Pacific Sea, back to the thriving and beauty island country of Taiwan. Pacific guitar Chinese pop music playing, travel through busy city of Old and New Taipei, past the golden Buddha statue and the biggest Buddhist temple in Taiwan, all the way through the Pengchu market and back to Hunchun, the world aging now, as 11 years seem to fly by. Now passing to the Green Hills woody areas of the Pingtung County in southern small-town Taiwan, going to the west gate fort of Hunchun, made of ancient moldy reddish brick stone, surrounding the entire small-town areas, and then woodland and farmland divided into parts that form the large township of Hunchun, Pingtung County, South Taiwan. The buildings are mostly in old pale gray or white. The buildings seem aged and from a different time, each having signs more colorful and different to attract visitors, all being completely open. Shops you could just walk into and buy. Though, at a rare indoor shop, a tall high schooler tries to finish his plate of soupy dumplings and rushes back on his motorcycle, and the rest of the street gang do the same, not even paying a check for the small shop owner lady, riding off on their colorful motorcycles down the slim streets of Hunchun. Now leaving town as a motorcycle gang pass laughing at their crime, passing by Adam's home, now bigger and newer looking, a vibrant painted log cabin home of red and white. In the upper second floor window, there is an 10-year-old Shaolin's room, clean with covered with action figure robots and posters of K-pop singers, including BTS, and more local Chinese singers, plus a giant shirtless old man with English lettering. Fortis, the superhuman, France's #1 superhero. On his desk, an old bootleg Samsung and a busted-up laptop that hadn't been cleaned since he got it for his 10th birthday. He is sleeping now, wearing his favorite superhero, forest night pajamas under his polka-dot blue and red blanket, stuck in a half-good and half-horrifying nightmare. Shaolin's eyes open and close constantly as two doctors seemingly do surgery on his body. Shaolin doesn't feel anything happening, but then he can hear a slightly high but darkly calm male voice talking to other men on the progress of the operation in the distance, and two shadowy figures being pulled into another room, a younger girl forcibly taken to a round room while she screamed for her parents. Then before Shaolin could see where the daughter was taken, red starting to cover his eyes, the calm, chilling voice became deafeningly loud. But as soon as the dream came, he woke up. A weird dream, he thought, being in space and then seemingly being operated on. It was morning, and he can smell of steam from boiling water and water rice. With eggs being cooked, it was his father, Dart Adam Dart. He is known and leased at the house as the best scrambled eggs cook in all the land. The small, bluish-gray rabbit with his short, straight, and ovally combed short black hair and big eyes quickly takes off his pajama and puts on his school clothes, which are old jeans and a long white dress shirt then, following the smell to downstairs and into the Chinese wood cabin kitchen. There are some pictured symbols of yin and yang across the room, and the jade. Statues of the 12 lucky animals of the Chinese zodiac on a small fireplace near the stairs, serving as Adam's luck charms. His father wearing a more Amish look with pull-up pants and a dark blue button shirt. However, instead of his old Fisher hat when he was a bum, he wears his farmer and gardener straw hat, growing a brown fully beard. He looks to Shaolin with almost an open mouth and childish glee in his eyes, as he prepares the oolong herbs he got from his farmer friend in the mountains. Xiao at the down of the stairs looks to him and exclaims,
Ni hao. Hello, Dad.
The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said. The chances, the changes are all yours to make. The mold of your life is in your hands to break. The greatest adventure is there if you're bold. Let go of the moment that life makes you hold. To measure the meaning can make you delay. It's time you stop thinking and wasting the day. The man who's a dreamer and never takes leave, who thinks of a world that is just make-believe, will never know passion, will never know pain. Who sits by the window will one day see rain. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said. The chances, the changes are all yours to make. The mold of your life is in your hands to break. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead.
Do you have any leads on the Jade Jewel? Good. Then the hunt begins.